Welcome to On the Daily. In this episode, I am going to talk about two things that give me the ick. And when I say the ick, I don't actually care that much what people do, but it's just things that I notice that I'm like, I wouldn't do it like that. And one of them has to do with the coaching industry, the business coaching industry specifically, and the other one has to do with the human design space. So if you really like Danielle, spicy Danielle episodes, then this one's going to be for you. So come on in. Hey friend, welcome to On the Daily. I'm your host, Danielle McCleary, and I am a quantum business coach. I'm the host of this podcast. I'm a multi-six-figure entrepreneur, co-founder and president of Hype You Media, and CEO of Danielle on the Daily Coaching. What I'm really interested in is helping you live a life and have a business that is a full body yes. So through all of my education and all of my experience, I'm bringing you 2 episodes a week where I will guide you and give you the tools necessary to scale a massive, sustainable, and sexy business using your intuition, wealth energetics, and human design. What we can call it is business biohacking. So if you're down for that, then I say let's frickin' go. I'm so glad you're here. Before we get into this episode, I have to remind you that doors are actually closing for Scale to 6 very soon. And we added a really awesome incentive a couple weeks ago where I'm going to do a private branding session with you if you join and join before September 1st. And what I mean by branding session is not just like, here's what I think you should do for your brand, but it's an in-depth look into your astrology and into your human design to really get clear on like who you are and what you're meant to be doing based on your unique body graph and your unique birth chart. And so you start your brand like that and then building to sustainable and peaceful. That's the key word. Anybody can build a six-figure business, but if it does not feel peaceful, then like what is the actual point? And, you know, in this Scale to 6 accelerator, we are teaching you to do that, but from a place of peace and from a place of deep alchemy and alignment. And now if you join before September 1st, you're also going to get a private branding call with me, which there are no other private calls in this container. So it's going to be really, really impactful. And then you'll still get invited to the Austin retreat happening in February. So if you are interested in building a 6-figure business and one that is sustainable, not just like I launched something once, yay, but like actually building a sustainable business that continues to make at least $10,000 a month. I have not made less than $10,000 a month since February of 2019. And that is because I focused on building a really sustainable business. And that is what I'm going to teach you to do, but not in the way that most people are going to teach it. And that takes us right into my biggest pet peeves right now in the coaching space. So let's get into this episode. So I sent an email about this actually a couple weeks ago, but figured let's bring it to the pod. There are a couple things that I see happening in the business coaching space and in the human design space that kind of make me, I get it. I get why it's happening, and I don't think it needs to be happening. And so in the business space, what I notice is happening is there are business coaches out there that say, here is an arbitrary thing that worked for me and this client of mine. And you should join my program because I'm going to teach you this, what is it? Proven method to success. This, everyone calls it something different, but like my signature proven method, my proven study, my proven steps, my one-stop shop for blank. And that very much attracts vulnerable business owners who don't know about their human design, have never done shadow work, and are very much still in the space of, I need to look outside of myself for the secret sauce or for the thing that's going to make me successful, that's going to make me move faster, that's going to make me more money, that's going to make me more relatable, whatever it is. And so they buy this thing and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But if it doesn't, that makes that person feel really uncomfortable and defeated because this thing that's a signature method that worked for everyone else, it didn't work for me. And now I feel really bad. And then you go into this spiral. So then you have a bunch of business owners that are feeling like defeated and they can't scale their business to $10,000 months and beyond because they feel like there's something wrong with them because they bought this course and they, quote, wasted thousands of dollars. How many times have you heard that or said that? I've wasted thousands of dollars on this thing and it didn't work. That's because business is not meant to be done one way. Business strategy, branding, marketing, sales, it's not meant to be done the same way because you have to know your human design. I would never work with a coach who didn't know. I mean, listen, not many coaches are going to know more about human design than I do, but any coach I work with has to have an understanding of human design. So when I come to them and I say I'm a 6'2" sacral generator, I'm a Sagittarius. I'm a Scorpio rising. I have a Mercury in Sag. I have, a Venus Capricorn. Like when I say these things to a coach, they have to be able to understand what that means because then I know that they're going to be able to give me the support I need to grow the business in the way that I am meant to grow my business, not in the way that they grew their business. And I've realized that this is something I'm very uniquely qualified to do, and I thought was common sense. It's apparently not common sense. And so I think if you are teaching business, this is like a super, I guess, like polarizing thing to say, but I don't think you have any business teaching business unless you have an understanding of human design, especially as we move into the new paradigm of business. The old paradigm of business is like, here's a box, here's some rules, here's the way, do it like this. And then that's what led to epic burnout amongst the masses because you have all these people trying to do business in the same way when we're not meant to do business in the same way. We're not meant to do life in the same way. And the new paradigm of business and life and sustainability is that everybody is meant to function in their own unique way. And a lot of that is based on what your human design is, where the stars were in the sky when you were born. And you can be like, no, that's too woo-woo for me. Okay, fine. That's fine. But if you've never actually just like looked into it and like seen, does this resonate with me? Then it's just something that I think I think every business coach needs to do. It's just like every business coach needs to have like skills in business, right? Like you would never be a business coach if you had never built a business. I mean, some people do. That's definitely, I'm not saying that that's not a thing, but it shouldn't be a thing. And I think as we move into this new paradigm, like I think the same thing about like trauma informed. Like you have to be trauma informed. You have to have done shadow work. If you have never done any shadow work and you are a person who gets triggered by everything, you have no business coaching entrepreneurs. You have no business being a business coach. And I really believe that. So then the second thing, and that kind of takes me to the second thing, is that the shadow work that we talk about is also done through human design. And one of the biggest things I see happening, and I actually saw one of my new Instagram friends, her Instagram is Hatha Astro. She's like a huge human design thought leader. And everything, when you like see those people on the internet that like everything they post, you're like, oh, I fucking love that. Like this bitch, she's speaking my mind. And I had felt that way about her for a really long time. We both have this like big curly blonde hair, and she was like, I'm a 2-line. And I was like, oh, that's why I really like you. So we started chatting in the DMs, and she's like, I just have to see your chart. And I sent her a picture of my astrology and my human design chart. And she's like, you are not going to believe this. And then she sends hers to me. And like, when I say our charts are almost identical, I mean like identical, like down, except for like our sun sign. She's a Pisces, I'm a Sag, but she's born March 20th, 1987. I'm born December 20th, 1987. And so our birthdays are like on the 20th she's a Pisces, I'm a Sag. We're both ruled by Jupiter. Like it's crazy. But anyway, she posted something about this, and it was something I obviously like very much agreed with. And it was that there is a common theme. And I think this is normal when my observation is that when something starts to become more mainstream, which human design and astrology and business is becoming more mainstream, as it should be. But what happens then is you have a whole bunch of people just learning it without actually like integrating it. And so this theme I see in the human design space is that people are teaching human design from a place of like, let this thing validate all of the parts of yourself that you like. But what a lot of people then do is they bypass the actual point of human design, which is the deconditioning process. Human design is the best thing about human design is that it teaches you where your shadows lie so that you can do the shadow work to release these things from your body. And there's not a lot of people teaching that. A lot of people are teaching human design from this thing of like, it checks boxes and like, you're a generator, so you're meant to find joy. Go find joy. But what they're not teaching is the shadow side of that is like, you've literally been praised your whole life for your yes. So your joy, if you haven't deconditioned as a generator or in a manifesting generator, your joy is literally found in the praise you receive for saying yes. And so following your joy and following the full body yes is so diluted and distorted for you because you actually haven't done the deconditioning process, which is like releasing the need to be needed, releasing the addiction you have to external praise and validation that you receive from your yes, learning that the best thing you can do is say no. The most successful generators and manifesting generators say no most often. But a lot of people who learn human design or teach human design are not teaching it in that way. They're not teaching you to first decondition the parts of you that are your shadows so that you can actually feel what a full body yes is in your body, separate from what is expected of you externally. If human design has become a cerebral experience for you, it's you're missing the point. Right? If you tell a projector like, oh, you're just meant to wait for the invitation, but you're not telling them how to decondition the part of them that thinks they need to prove themselves to everyone, then they're going to be out there like putting their light into the world in every which way in the way that generators are. Like generators and manifesting generators are, our aura is very enveloping. We come into a room and everybody is like, it almost feels like a warm hug with our energy. Projectors are not like that. Projectors have a very piercing aura and they will literally get in your space, like in your energetic space. Their aura goes in your space, which is why a lot of projectors come off as like a little bit like, people are a little bit intimidated by them. People are a little bit put off by them. It can feel a little bit like unnerving for people around projectors who haven't done the deconditioning process to understand that like their energy is not for everyone. And they grew up in a generator and MG world teaching them that they need to be available. They need to do more. They need to, work harder. So they're trying to like spread this like very precious, sacred, efficient energy into all spaces when that's not how they're meant to be. So they're out here trying to get the invitation from everyone when that's not actually how they're meant to operate, which is why they're bitter all the time. So if you're teaching a projector to like wait for the invitation without actually teaching them first how to decondition the parts of their brain that still feel like they need to do more, then you're doing them a disservice. I could do the same thing. We'll do all, because now everyone's like, well, what about a manifester? So manifestors, you teach a manifester how to, inform, but you're not actually teaching them the deconditioning process of like, you don't need everybody to get it. Because a lot of manifestors had really big ideas as kids and they wanted to share their ideas. And then they were often told like, that doesn't make any sense. Nobody's going to listen to that. We don't need that right now. You don't know what you're talking about. You're too young to have an opinion on this, right? They were like silenced a lot. So their energy shrank. They're like big, wild, like ideas and this like beautiful energy that they have was like shrank. So you tell you become a human design coach and you don't do the deconditioning work or teach the deconditioning work, and you tell a manifestor like, just go inform people what you're going to do, but you haven't taught them how to like release that need to be understood, right? To release their fear of rejection. Well, now they're just coming at everything like a bull in a china shop. And they're like, well, I'm doing this. And if you don't like it, fuck you. And then nobody wants to follow them because they just come off as like really aggressive because they haven't actually released that. Like you have to teach the deconditioning process and nobody's doing that. I mean, that's not true. There are people that are doing that, but not enough people are doing that. I mean, this is the whole reason, like with Break the Matrix. Well, first, let me do reflectors first. So reflectors, you tell them like, oh, you need to be surprised and delighted, but you're actually not teaching them the deconditioning process that they literally, their greatest superpower is their chameleon, is the fact that they're a chameleon, is the fact that they are literal shapeshifters and can like kind of like water flow like water and kind of be a different form, a different shape, a different person, depending on who they're with. If you don't decondition the shame and the guilt they have around that, then being surprised is something that they're just like searching for instead of something that they're surrendering into. Reflector energy is a very feminine energy. It's a lot less doing. It's a lot more surrendering to what could be instead of what they can go seek out. And then that's why you have a ton of reflectors being like, I'm trying to be surprised. I'm trying to find the surprising thing. But then they're super, 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 super like burnt out because they're operating in a way that is perpetuating their shadows. And this is why it's why I created Break the Matrix, because I was looking at the human design space and I was like, well, everybody's teaching human design first. And then they're like, oh yeah, and then go into your shadows, kind of like an afterthought. But in the way that my course Break the Matrix is set up is like, we teach the deconditioning process first. We actually dive into the past first, and then we go into human design, so that then when you get to human design and you go, oh, right. So me personally, my whole life I was praised for my yes. I was Danielle, the one who could handle it all. I did everything. I was a dancer. I was, associated student body. I played softball. I was a swimmer. I got married really young. Like I just like did all these things, and everyone was always like so impressed with like how mature and how wise I was. So I got it into my head and into my body and into my subconscious that like I had to keep saying yes. I had to keep doing. I had to be accessible and available 24/7, which is why I burnt out, which is why I ended up like hitting rock bottom and kind of pivoting hard. So teaching the deconditioning process and how to release that, then I learn about my human design and I go, oh, I'm more successful when I say no. And actually, I don't need to say yes all the time. I just need to be able to say yes to the things that are actually yeses. I can now use human design as the tool it was designed for through the lens of the deconditioning process. And then we move into the somatic healing, because now you have to like move this energy through your body through breath work and RRT and tapping and, dancing and shaking and all these different things that you can do to like move energy through your body in a nervous system way, right? Get your parasympathetic nervous system to join the party again. And once all that's done and you're this clean slate, well, now we can move into the future and actually think about what we want moving forward. And so kind of back to what I was saying about the human design space and how that relates to business, right? So you have that coach who sells this one-stop shop or this signature method that's the same for everyone. They've probably never done human design work or deconditioning work, because if they had, they wouldn't be teaching business like this. And then they have all these vulnerable people who also haven't done the human design and the shadow work to be able to discern that. So now you have this person taking this arbitrary method that doesn't work for them because maybe that coach is actually a projector, and then this client is actually a generator, and like they're meant to do things differently. And so it doesn't work. But now the coach is upset and frustrated because it worked for this client and it worked for me. So they're uncomfortable with the fact that this client didn't get the results. So now they're projecting that discomfort onto their client. Their client is absorbing that discomfort and then kind of like spitting it back. And then it just ends up being this like uncomfortable situation where then the client is now afraid to invest in anything else because they've spent their whole life investing in things that didn't work. Right. And so this is why I always tell people, I'm like, this is why you work with me. This is why you work with people who have this knowledge, because it's actually really hard for me to like sell what I do, because I don't have a signature method, right? Like I have Break the Matrix, which is a signature program, but it's all based on helping you reconnect to yourself. None of my clients have the same marketing plan. Like Scale to Six, inside of Scale to Six, like my business accelerator, no two clients have the same marketing plan. No two clients have the same business strategy. No two clients have the same social media strategy. No two clients have the same like branding and marketing campaigns, because we're all different. And it's sometimes really hard for me to like teach that, because I'm like, well, I'm going to teach you how to connect to yourself, and I'm going to teach you to like decondition the parts of your brain that have convinced you you're unworthy of the things that you want. And then we're going to build a business from that place. And people are like, what? But that's why it's so important. And I think that we're going to see more because obviously if I'm frustrated by it, then it's because it's changing. And so I think as the paradigm continues to shift, we're going to see a lot more people like really, really learning all of these different tools to better build a business, to better build a life. And it's going to feel so much better. It's going to feel so much more alchemized. And we're all, instead of trying to like get everyone to do what we did because it worked for us, we're just going to be fine with everyone kind of floating along their own river and trusting that eventually we're going to end up in the same big, beautiful ocean. So yeah, I mean, that was like the best way I could explain what happens inside of Scale to Six. Like if you are looking for business that's like $10,000 to $15,000 months consistently, and you aren't trying to do it in the same way that everyone else has done it for so long, then this is my philosophy, and this is how I teach business. Obviously, you need the structure and you need the strategy and you need the email list and the funnels and all these things, but there's a way to do it that's aligned with you. And the only way we're going to figure that out is if we look at your chart. The only way we're going to do that is if we like get to the root of the shadow in the first place. So, and this applies to your relationships. This applies to like my marriage. This applies to my friendships. This applies to the way I raise my son. Like this stuff doesn't just apply to business. Like it applies to your life. It's literally your life's blueprint, but business is a huge part of where it can exist. So on that note, click the link in our show notes if you want to learn more about Scale to Six. If Break the Matrix is something you want to do, we're going to be opening that back up later this year, but there is a wait list right now. So if you want to get on that wait list to be the first to hear about early bird pricing, you can click the link in our show notes, and we'll see you next week. Love ya.